MetroPolitics on Jewish Week TV. I'm here with New York City's newest member of the House of Representatives, Michael Grimm. Congratulations on your victory.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
it. The 13th District, representing parts of Brooklyn and all of Staten Island. So tell us about the campaign. What do you think that the people in the district were saying when they voted the incumbent out of office and elected you?
Well, I think very clearly they were saying that we had to start listening to the people. And the people very clearly said certain things throughout the last 22 months, that they did not want the Obamacare legislation, for example, that they wanted a stop to the out-of-control spending, and that they wanted big government to stop growing in leaps and bounds and become much smaller. And that really was my message, and it resonated very well.
You'll be New York City's link to the Republican-led House of Representatives. How will you work with Mayor Michael Bloomberg, who's a former Republican, some would say Republican name only, and someone who endorsed your opponent in this race?
Well, you know, I just met with Mayor Bloomberg, and the conversation went very, very well. Obviously, there are certain issues that we are on opposite sides, and that's
such as what?
Such as the mosque at Ground Zero. We're on complete opposite sides. The Staten Island school buses. We're on the opposite side because they took away school buses from 7th and 8th graders. But overall, my job is to build bridges, to bring people together so that I can be more effective. Waging war against each other, to some extent, is what the Congress has done. And that's not a good thing for the people. So I need to build bridges, and I think I do that by looking at what's common, what we both want. The mayor and I both want this state and this city and this country to be prosperous. We want it to be one in which we give our children more than we have, and we want it to be safe. So those are the common goals we start with, and then we work from there.
You have a sense that the mayor's eye is on national politics himself?
You know, I don't. I think that it's something that the mayor will continue to flirt with in the back of his head, but ultimately I don't think the mayor will run for president. But you never know. That's a decision that only the mayor can make.
What are some of the issues, the federal issues facing the city that you discussed with the mayor when you met with him?
Well, obviously the economy, the way we deal with our economy. And my first months in office, we're going to be dealing, and probably my first weeks in office, we're going to be dealing with whether we extend the Bush tax cuts. And of course, I campaigned on it, and I believe in my heart I'm a true fiscal conservative. I believe keeping taxes low is the way you grow an economy. So we're going to be looking to keep tax levels where they are now and not raise them on anyway, not even the highest tax bracket, which is one area where Mayor Bloomberg and I disagree. The other thing is creating more certainty. The overwhelming and sweeping legislations that we've seen out of this administration over the last almost 2 years have created a tremendous amount of uncertainty in the marketplace, which is terrible for business. It's terrible for the markets. So we have to create certainty, and by making the tax cuts permanent, that's a way to create some certainty. And it's a step in the right direction for our small business owners and for our entrepreneurs.
Now, Staten Island has a very large and growing Jewish community. When you campaigned there, what are some of the issues they addressed with you?
Well, of course, domestically it's the economy and job creation. But you know, Israel and the relationship between the United States and Israel and the protection of Israel is a key issue. And I think that I've gotten overwhelming support from the community because I've always been a very strong supporter of Israel, and that's not going to change. I was interviewed just yesterday about President Obama's remarks and criticisms of Israel with regard to building in Jerusalem. Now, number one, I don't believe there should be any preconditions with sitting down with Palestine. That would be a mistake. Secondly, Jerusalem is for me, it's the undisputed, undivided capital of the Jewish people and the Jewish state of Israel. So there should be no problem with them building in Jerusalem. It's the capital. So I disagree with the president. I'm going to take a strong stance against the president on this issue. I'm going to be looking to lead the United States to a much stronger, closer relationship with Israel. And at a time when Iran is racing towards nuclear weapons, it is, to me, it's almost unfathomable that we are not strengthening our relationship with Israel, and we're doing the exact opposite because of remarks like the president has recently made.
President Bush was criticized for doing too little to get the peace process going. President Obama is being criticized for doing too much. What do you think is the right balance for the American administration to be involved in the peace process?
Well, first let me say this. The United States must play an integral role in the peace process. We have to be at the forefront, we have to lead, but we have to lead through words and through actions. And Israel is such an important, if not one of the most important allies for the United States. And as the only real democracy in the Middle East, it's imperative that we do everything we can to bring peace. But we do that by supporting Israel, and I'll tell you why. Israel has already made so many concessions and has shown their willingness to be flexible. So to ask anything else of Israel is inappropriate at this point and would be detrimental to the peace process because we're pushing Israel away from the table, we're not bringing them closer. And I think that's a big mistake.
Congressman Eric Cantor from Virginia, a Jewish member of the House Republican, the only Jewish Republican, has suggested that the aid formula be reformulated, that Israel's foreign aid should be taken out of the foreign appropriations package and put separately. Have you discussed that with him? Do you have any ideas about that?
Not yet, but I know that I'm going to be sitting down with Congressman Cantor in the next few weeks to discuss that very issue. So I'd like to reserve comment until I have the benefit of that conversation so that I can speak about it a little more intelligently.
And during the campaign, your opponent made some headlines by compiling a list of Jewish donors to your campaign. Do you think that had something to do with the victory? His defeat, I should say?
Well, I don't know how much it had to do with it because I felt that even before that I had a tremendous amount of support within the Jewish community. I don't think it could have gotten much better than it already was. So I don't think it did have that much of an effect, but I do think that it reminds us of the importance of remaining vigilant against anything that could even be remotely described as anti-Semitism. And
do you think there was some anti-Semitic motive behind it?
Well, I certainly hope not, but whenever you segregate anyone based on their religion, it leaves it open to interpretation, and those can draw inferences, even if they're not accurate, those inferences can be drawn. And that's the last thing we need. We need to be bringing everyone together, not segregating them, people based on their religion or their ethnicity or anything of that stuff.
In 2 years, Kirsten Gillibrand has to run for re-election. Is that something you're thinking about?
No, definitely not. I'm so focused on the job and the tasks in front of me. I mean, realistically, we're facing the most difficult challenges of my lifetime by far. And I'm really focused on getting my office up and running and getting right to work, getting taxes lowered, creating jobs, and reducing the size of government.
There's been a lot of concern nationwide about the Tea Party. It's been cast in some ways as an extremist movement. Do you feel that that characterization is unfair? Do you think there are extremist elements? What is your...
Well, I think overall that is extremely unfair. The Staten Island Tea Party, for example, are anything but extremists. They're concerned, good, patriotic Americans. That's what they are. Are there always a few bad apples? Sure. That's in any organization. But overall, I think it's very healthy because more and more people that have never been involved in politics are finally getting involved, and that's good for our democracy.
Congressman-elect Michael Grimm, thank you so much for joining us in the program. We look forward to covering your career in politics and look forward to having you on again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.